again, it's premature to ask you about any specific program, but you do education, you do a number of other programs. Do you see potentially there being additions to that, a great many more programs that you're currently working on, not to mention new areas that you've not yet broached?
There will be new. Obviously, there will be new, and part of that is just based on my leadership style and the things that I bring to the table. Certainly, the 25 years of experience that I got at Shaw is really what qualified me for this job. And I say Shaw, and somebody else could say Mohawk, because there are a lot of similarities between this and BOU and Engineered Floors and all the major players. I'm going to bring some unique things to it, and I think what I bring to the table, also paired up with that executive team, will determine where our focus is. I can also tell you, I think one of the things that I'll be most passionate about is better utilization of what's already there. The challenge we had in the Shaw Flooring Network is you have all these great tools, and we think people will use them just because they're there. And the reality is there's so many of them that sometimes it's overwhelming, and they're so busy running their business, they don't have the time to stop and say, I need to get that off that shelf and apply it to my business. We want to help them do that. We want to actually take their hand and apply it to the hand of the person who can help them wherever the need is.
So communication is going to be a lot of what you do.
It's a big part.
We do have this up there on the shelf.
It is. And, and you and I were just talking about this off camera. I mean, the reality is communication, no matter how you do it, it will be outdated in about 2 years. So if you're cutting edge right now, you've got video, you've got audio, you're doing these interviews, but in 2 years somebody will be doing something different, and we've got to be willing to adapt to that. If we're not, we'll fall behind, and so will the people that we represent. So communication will always be a challenge.
Now the WFCA really came into its own with Surfaces, the trade show. They started Surfaces, the trade show. Your predecessor worked at making it a success. That was really his bailiwick.
Yeah, it was.
When he came on, very successful at that. He launched a lot of programs, as we mentioned, since then. Might a tack that would be on the table with you and your organization to seek some other venue that could grow to the stature that Surfaces was? Might that be something that you would be searching
I don't think so, Dave. As a matter of fact, I think contractually we've agreed with Hanley Wood that we would not do that.
Well, I don't mean a trade show. I just mean something other than a trade show that could develop into something that would be a major thing you could hang your hat on.
Yeah, I do see the need. It's anytime you've got a membership, the membership lacks a personality. It lacks a purpose unless there's a time that you get them together and you say, here's what we're focused on. And we don't have a convention simply for our membership. And so I could see that being something we might work toward. And our convention obviously would be much different than the conventions I did at Shaw or what Mohawk does, or even Surfaces. Ours would not be product-based. Our goal would not be to sell product. Our goal would be to meet needs in the industry. So I think our convention would very likely be something that's more focused around training, using a lot of the expertise of Tom. But you've got a lot of good trainers in this industry. Yeah. Mohawk has good trainers. BOU has good trainers. On the hard surface side, you've got wonderful players in Armstrong, Mannington. We could bring the expertise of all of them together into one place and have kind of a training forum. I'm kind of brainstorming out loud, but that's one thing that's occurred to me is why not utilize the wisdom and expertise that we have, and let's spread it across and let's improve the entire industry.
That's a good idea. Just looking at the events that we've seen over this past season, I think a lot of people turned out, I won't say primarily for education, but to a good part for education, and they're hungry for it seems like at this point.
Yeah, we had a number of people that would call us for the Shaw Convention and say, listen, I need to know what training you're offering, because if it's not something I want, I'm not coming. And that was the reason they came. They wanted to invest in their business, and the only way they could justify, especially most of these are small retailers, to be away from their business for 3 to 5 days, that's a big deal. That's a big commitment. So they wanted to make sure they were doing something that when they went back, it would also have a positive impact on their business.
To apply. Now, the WFCA is primarily an association of retailers. I mean, you have other members, associate members.
We have affiliate members, associate members. We deal with, of course, all the manufacturers. As I've already said, we have a lot of members, even board members, that are parts of the buying groups. We deal a lot, obviously, with the installation side, as
Right.
we've already mentioned, the ANSI standard. And so our goal is to permeate the entire industry. We'll have a focus within that. Obviously, you can't do all of those at the same level. And we probably need to determine what that focus will be. That will be part of the July meeting.
Okay. So then membership may likely expand to other areas, and you would open the door for others.
I'll be honest with you. Even before I was at WFCA, to me, membership in WFCA is kind of a no-brainer just for the regular member. I mean, if you just take the tuition reimbursement program that we have, you pay $275 to be a regular member for a year, and we'll pay up to $500 of your training expense. Now, try to do the math on that and make it work out. But what that says is we're not so worried about the money. We're worried about the voice that we represent. And the more voices we can represent, then when we have an issue and we need to go to somebody, we can say we have, especially in D.C., you know, we've got issues like the Marketplace Fairness Act that we've been doing a gigantic lobbying effort on for months, actually years go back with Jeffrey King, our legal counsel. But we get on the phones and we call these senators, and then we call all of our members and we say, call your senators, or email them and have them call. And you're beginning to see it makes a difference. We had a vote earlier this week. There will probably be a vote in the Senate today on the Marketplace Fairness Act on this Thursday. And, you know, you can make a difference if people realize that you're not speaking solely for yourself. And so the more people we get focused on the same issue and the same effort, and we raise our hand and we say we represent these people, that's where the power of the voice comes in.
So that may be something you do on a really industry-wide basis over and above your membership.
Certainly. And Dave, you know my background. I'm a vocal performance major. I do what most vocal performance majors do, something else, because it's very difficult to make it in that. But one thing I know is a solo voice is a beautiful thing. But when you get a choir singing a beautiful piece, all with the same focus of making it sound right, doing their part, there's nothing like that. And so we've got all these associations and alliances within the flooring industry. Why not, on the issues we agree on, let's come together and say, listen, here's what's important to us, and here's what you can do to help us as a government, as a local organization, or whatever it is that we're trying to lobby for, whoever we need to speak to. The more these voices, with their own focuses, come together and say, this is important to us too, the more likely somebody's going to hear that can do something about it.
That's interesting.